It's all about to happen. July 2025 may be the most important month of our lifetimes, so I'm going to key in on three predictions that I have, including which world leader I see stepping down for the month in the psychic forecast, or I should say maybe not just July, but the period between now and the end of the summer. But July is the focal point, and there's numerology that supports that, so I'll explain that also. And depending on what happens this summer is going to dictate what direction we go as a society in the autumn and beyond. So we're here to prepare, not scare. So it's not doom and gloom, but we don't sugarcoat it either. And in actuality, there's a lot of good stuff that's happening. This could lead to humanity's finest hour. So this could be some really breakthrough times that are happening, but we've got a lot to get through also. So we're going to break it all down. I've got it all in my notes. So let me pop the glasses on, grab some water, and have at it. So in any event, so summer 2025 gives us a taste or a heads up for the energies we're going to be experiencing from around 2027 into the 2030s. So it's sort of like a sneak preview, if you will. So let's pay attention to what happens. If we can understand the trend, we may be able to firstly stay safe in our own lives, as well as maybe change some of the current timelines into something more favorable. Basically, we have the power to do that. So in any event, the first prediction is the 3 days of darkness. Basically, you've heard that before. I believe it's from the Bible, though I don't think they actually mention 3 days specifically in the Bible, but in the books of Exodus, Mark, I believe, and of course Revelations have references to that. But my prediction is more likely. Okay, so getting back to my prediction of what the 3 days of darkness means. Are we literally going to have a 3-day blackout around the world? I don't think so. There may be regional blackouts like there have been, but I think what may be tangible or may turn up physically in our world is some kind of an internet blackout or technology blackout where we don't have cell service, we don't have internet or stuff like that. Again, just potential. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. And this could be the result of a cyber terrorist attack or some war effort. So that would be the reason, or one of the prime reasons that I could see this happening or this potential happening. And of course, other possibilities could be solar flares, other things that are going on around the world. You know, there's a lot of things that could bring that about, but I also saw a new comet being discovered, around the summer, or an asteroid. I don't think the Earth's in danger, but that was interesting. And this could also lead to a temporary economic crash also. So that's part of the energy of this 3 days of darkness. Seeing supply lines being interrupted. I'll be drinking lots of water because I'm sitting out in the sun. So have supplies and backup in case all of the technology goes down, like bank cards and stuff like that. Have cash, have stuff like that. We can see a breakdown of supply lines of exports, imports, stuff like that. We can see, we see world government structures continuing to destabilize during this period, and this could also, the 3 days of darkness, it could be a metaphor for the end of the darkness of humanity, where we are sleeping as a collective, and this could be the beginning of awakening, a lot of truths being exposed. Now remember, the timelines are fluid, and one of the things that I was being shown, well, a couple of things I want to mention. One, July, in numerology, it comes out to 16. That's the same number of the tower, and in Chaldean numerology, it's the shattered citadel, and we've had a lot of 16s through degree points that are important, and through the last couple of years we've had 3 or 4 other universal 16 months, which doesn't happen every year. So this and other factors are showing that this is the period where it's all coming down. It's like the illusion has to fall, the tower has to fall, and stuff needs to be exposed. That way we can rebuild our society on a stronger foundation of love and power back to the people rather than what it's being built on, which is greed, corruption, power over others, and all the stuff that you understand. So the other thing they were showing me is one of the reasons this period is so important is that multiple timelines or realities are converging into one timeline, basically. And that's a little bit hard to wrap your mind around, but there's something called string theory in quantum physics. There's multiple timelines, multiple experiences that we can be happening, but it all happens in the present now. But at certain times, these frequencies or these timelines will align, and then that's when we can have a huge quantum shift or the timeline split, and we can choose a higher timeline. And one thing you can do is picture like weather patterns, like sometimes storms, they usually do their own thing, they follow their own path, dissipate, but occasionally two storms will merge into one, and then it becomes a stronger storm, and then the direction that those storms go in will be different than if they remain separate storms. So it's that kind of an energy that the timelines are coming together. So let me go back to my notes here. So all that means is that great change will occur in this and other realities as these timelines merge. And what we hold in the present now, the vibration we hold in the now, we create the future out of. So individually and collectively, raise your consciousness, be in your highest state as much as you can, your highest emotional frequency, and raise your consciousness and frequency, do your spiritual work, encourage others to do the same. And the more that we do that, the more it'll affect the collective, and the more that we'll avoid some really difficult and troubling times, and the more smoothly we're going to evolve into these new and higher timelines, basically. So what else do we have? We all need to vibrate higher. That's the bottom line. So that way we won't go through a period of 3 days of darkness, or where we lose touch with each other, and the lights go out, or things like that happen. So we can mitigate a lot of this through consciousness, but remember, everything happens in the now. So the intentions we hold in the now, that affects the future timeline. So the timelines are always changing. Remember that. 3 days of darkness metaphor can mean suppression of information. That means corruption ends more than ever will be exposed between now and through the summer. So more is going to be coming out, more corruption, more things that have been being used to keep us in the dark and to harm us. So again, 3 days of darkness, that's the metaphor. And we're also in the proverbial battle of good versus evil, light versus dark. So there may be a period of darkness or something really troubling going on in the world, really threatening, to help us to open our eyes to avoid that, to come fully into the light, basically. Well, anyway, new info on suppressed info. That's how I do my notes, right? Especially around like the pandemic, pharmaceutical companies, hidden agendas, why people that have come public have died, while others have disappeared and other stories have been squashed, basically. Though a couple of why they've happened abruptly. And the next point that I wrote is, though a couple of groundbreaking treaties can happen, like Russia and the Middle East. We predicted that for July, right? We also predicted about 2 weeks before it happened, new countries getting involved in the global conflict, and there being missiles or airstrikes. And right after that, India struck Pakistan, so those are new countries. So anyway, the powers that want to control everything, you can call them the elite, the deep state, whatever words that you want to use, are getting very desperate, and they're using desperate measures to try to squash the awakening that's naturally happened. Humanity's naturally awakening. So basically, so they use desperate measures that can include violence, that can include very obvious things to keep certain whistleblowers quiet. There are people that have bits of knowledge and maybe how pandemics were handled that really fed the pharmaceutical companies and potentially cause more harm, or theoretically cause more harm to the people, basically. It can include obvious censorship, etc. But that's how we know that we're in the end times, and the end times is the rebirth into the new dawn of humanity, the golden age. So things like that, more oppression, more things going on in the news, more things being suppressed, more people being silenced, all that kind of stuff, more things coming out about, all kinds of things that have been going on. So in any event, so this is leading to prediction number 2, basically, and that is mass global awakening, and that's what's going to be happening. It's already happening. The frequencies that are affecting the planet keep getting stronger, and as that affects the conscious fields as well as the earth vibration, it releases a lot of the stuck energy, which is suppression, greed, power over others, and stuff like that, and information that's been held at bay, that's been held in the darkness. So expect more than ever corruption to be exposed on a grand level, on a many different levels. So more than ever, people are shifting into their higher spiritual perspectives, powers that want to suppress and squash it. Where are we? And others, then censorship and violence. All right, we talked about that. The frequencies, medical protocols and such, being used to dumb people down, cut them off from their own divinity, fear taxes, false news to promote fear, anger, distrust with each other, and all that kind of stuff. These are all weapons of mass conscious destruction being used against humanity. The end game is to cut us all from our own divinity. That's our power source. That's where all of our love, our trust, our ability to trust in the higher forces, they want to cut that off so that we're fear. It's almost like a motherless baby kitten, that doesn't have the milk to feed on, basically. They want to cut us off from our wellspring of our own power, our own divinity, our own light, basically. And once we're cut off from that, we're very scared, very easy to control. So what else do we have? Fear tactics, false news to promote anger, distrust. Basically, financial reset also happens as a response to change. Things can crash on around July, but begin to recover as soon as August. So I don't think anything's going to be permanent, anything that goes down or anything that gets cut off. And brighter times are happening. Again, the 3 days of darkness are followed by light. The tariffs will likely play a role, by the way, and other things. So in any event, that leads me to the third prediction, a major leader stepping down. Could that be Donald Trump? Well, we've had forecasts in the past about that and why his tenure could end as President of the United States on or around July. That's only one of a couple of available timelines to me, but that's something to watch out. But besides Trump, who could be stepping down as early as July? Well, where are my notes on that? Somewhere right over here. King Charles, that's a major leader. We know that he has cancer, right? In fact, we predicted him having cancer before it was known in the news. I don't think he's the one yet, but I think he's under treatment right now. How about Putin? We talked about him having illness, possibly cancer, possibly skin lesions, and other forecasts. So far, I haven't seen that come out in the news, so I don't know if that's true or not, but it's come through my psychic forecasts. But another interesting candidate that popped up was Vance, the vice president, and that just struck me yesterday. It's like him stepping down for whatever reason. There's a lot of corruption being exposed. There's things about what happened in the elections, and there's a lot of conjecture whether the technology was manipulated, results manipulated in the last election as well as other elections here in the U.S. Did Vance play a role in that or something else? But what if he was to step down and then Trump stepped down? Who would be the next president? That would be an interesting question also. Then there's all kinds of other world leaders. There's Netanyahu, there's Zelensky, there's a lot of candidates, and I think it's going to be more than one. I think it's going to be more of a trend. Again, getting back to that 3 days of darkness, because another thought came in. We talked about like air, the things with the airplanes and the air disasters before they happen, and airplanes being grounded and all that stuff. So, again, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of energy of change, and we're going to have to make a lot of adaptation. So we don't know who will step down yet, but we do know that this is going to lead to further destabilization of government, of world government, world economy, world trade. It's a period of destabilization. The general energy or crux behind that is that the old has to fall as the new starts to emerge. So we're going to have a new awakening. So other things to watch in around July are earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, as I've been shown a lot of wind, fire, and water. The area around the Mississippi, especially subject around that time, so be on the lookout for that. Also, another one in Southern California around that time is quite possible. More earthquakes, watch Yellowstone, and a lot of activity around the world. Again, as things reset, as the energies get so strong that the truths come out as old stored energy, and the earth comes out, there's a shaking that happens. There's a climate change. There's a change of the frequencies, or I should say, there's a change in the frequencies happen. There's a change in things like natural disasters and stuff like that. Also, things like toxins, things like more around like chemical aerosol spraying, aka chemtrails, toxins in water and foods that have not only been around for a while, that those in power know about it and quite possibly wanted that in order. Again, the idea is they want to make humanity more controllable, and there's always been, for thousands of years, a desire for a few people to exert a great control and influence over a great many, that a minute few have all the benefit, all the money, while much of the world is in poverty, in hunger, in disease, and stuff like that. And it just can't go on. These frequencies are getting too high. Something has to change. Something has to shift. And I think that the focus of that is going to be in July. In a couple of weeks, I'll have more detailed predictions, more specifics about July or the summer months in general, or both. So that's coming up very soon. But over here, let's see, we'll do a video more on some details about spring 2025 leading into the summer, and maybe more about why I believe that there's a chance that Donald Trump may be stepping down July. So I'll leave that in a video here. But from a spiritual perspective, because the work will be done, what he needed to expose will expose. Whether you love him or hate him, whether he is the corruption, exposing the corruption, whatever your viewpoint is, there's a spiritual reason, and it's all going to come down. And if it's time for that to change, it'll change. So anyway, that's what I have for you. Love you. See you at the next video.